Dreams Part 2. What I didn't cover last time was, first of all, I invite you, I would order you, but it's a free country. uh, if you want to record your dreams, before you go to sleep at night, say, I want to remember my dreams. Say it with conviction. I want to remember my dreams. Believe it or not, this works. I heard it from an Irish mystic some years back, and I started trying this, and you know what? It works. So I want to remember my dreams. Have a pad and paper, or as my son does, a tablet, and you type it in. Whatever's easier for you, you can get up and write down the whole thing. I suggest you write down the critical pieces. Maybe, something like, you might, this isn't it. The dream I read yesterday is here. But on this other side, pretend that these are like notes, like maybe this much right here is dream. You might write down that much and assume, 8 lines, and assume that, and sometimes, I did it in the dark, right? Because I didn't want to get up, I didn't want to wake up. So I just get the pad and I would write it on a legal pad and try to be sure to, even though I didn't even see what I was doing, using a pencil, I would write it out and make sure that I wasn't just scrawling things right on top of each other. So I'd try to write big and I would try to space down. And I might fill up a whole side of a legal pad with these cryptic scrawls. And then when I wake up in the morning, I would try to remember what I had, what the dream was about. It helps a lot. The more detail that you can get, the better. Now the other side of it is, and I've done this as well, if you start trying to record all your dreams, they start coming. The dreamer is happy that you want to communicate. Whoever it is that's manufacturing this fabulous and wonderful imagery, if you start writing this stuff down, it's saying, "Oh, I've got an ear. I'm willing to talk." Especially if you're trying to make sense out of it. The dreamer knows that you're talking to it. You might as well be trying to communicate, like in some sci-fi movie, with some distant alien. It's this person you don't know, and they talk in a language you don't understand. They're trying their best to communicate with you using the imagery that you can understand. That's why the dream uses stuff from the day or stuff from your past, and that there's always people you recognize. Now the other piece of this, that you write this down, a basic element of dream interpretation, I'd say the dictionaries that tell you that this means that, I find them not very usable. They're not very worthwhile. But what is usable and what's helpful is if when you write it down, you write down this dream with detail and descriptive words. The lampshade seemed old-fashioned. The wood was gnarly, or the wood had splinters, or whatever. And you'll get this detail. If you ask, well, what is it? Was one wood, like in the case of the telephone, the poles that I was talking about, one was kind of rougher, and it had more knots on it. The other was a little bit more, like I said, a telephone pole. One was flimsier, and the other one was a certain way. So with those descriptive words, I'll tell you, what I think those refer to is the 2 YouTube channels that I started. I've got another one called Kaivalya Gayatri, and it's, basically, anyway, it goes into more yoga type stuff. Anyway, that one is the flimsy pole, because I haven't spent any time on it, and I'm not clear about what I'm actually doing there. But the other one that's a firmer telephone pole is this one, which I've created on this Hamilton constellation. I renamed it, I did new graphics, and so that appears as this telephone pole. So it's telling me something about these poles, about the sagging, about the uprightness. That's for me to interpret. Okay, so let's move on. Write this stuff down. Tell yourself you want to remember your dream. And let's get on with these images. This is the image that I had up before. Just want to point out, here's animals. You're going to have dreams with animals in them. We have a deer and a dog. The dog is black and angry. It looks mean. The deer is sort of a wild animal. Deer have a kind of a spiritual or astral kind of an aspect. You know, it's a wild animal. They're flighty. They skid off into the wilderness. You know, if they're spooked, whatever. Whereas a dog is a domestic creature. So we're talking about a domestic characteristic, meaning it's closer to me. Domestic meaning it's closer to me. And the deer being more an instinctual aspect, has to do with more instinct. The shadowy figure here, that's me. And what was happening was the dog was attacking me. And I shroud the dog in red to make that you can see this. There are not two deer. What happened was the deer saw the dog attacking, and it's got chains on it. The deer had chains, like it had broken these chains, and it was trying to protect me from the dog. So it placed itself in harm's way. I was very moved in the dream. Long story short, the dog, domestic, it's, just for shorthand, it's instinctual, but it's trained instinctual. It's domestic instinctual. And it's frustration and it's rage. Okay? Black dog, angry, attacking me, that's rage. And there's an aspect of me that's coming back at me saying, we are so pissed, we are about to chew you up. That's what it's saying. It's an aspect of me coming at me. The black, the anger, the attack, and the fact that it's a dog, man's best friend. No, it's a dog thing. The deer, on the other hand, comes from the woods. That's more the wild instinct. It steps between me and the dog. It saves me. The wild instinct. This is a message to me. Try to tap into the wild instinctual. Try to tap into this. And the chains mean that I have had it bound up. Now the chains on the deer also sort of mean that could be some of how the dog, that's the domestication of the dog. You see, the chains on the wildness of the deer is why the dog is so angry. I had it on a tight leash, we talked about that. So let's move on to the next one and see how the dreams actually develop. In sequence, this was the first one. Now this is a boring one, kind of boring. The long-haired guy is what I used to look like. I had a beard. When I worked in this tech place, they said, "Oh, it's Jesus, he's come to save us." Anyway, I had the beard and long hair, and I wore nothing but Birkenstocks all day long. And this woman is my wife at the time. Now, I was in a process, as I said. I got into the New Age thing, and some of it is to break free of certain boundaries, bounds. We had my family was kind of stilted, beyond being a conservative family, because we weren't a conservative family. In fact, I'd say we were fairly liberal and more socialistic. But there was a tightness, a heaviness that I felt like I have to break out of. But as I said, how do you break out of these things when you're bounded up, you're tied up? Well, this is what's showing here is it's like in a museum, and this is like a Neanderthal head. Now, notice that this is mineral, this is granite. It's not alive, but it is of a living thing. In other words, this is distant from me. Dream imagery will get, as it approaches closer and closer to your heart, it will take on flesh. So that you look at this and you go, it's a museum piece, very cold, distant, aloof. But even given that, the head, which is like the instinctual self, that's the instincts I was talking about with the deer. This dream comes after that in sequence. And this person, or this being, like half ape, half man. See, you see the half ape, half man, that's my dream is making a concession. It's getting closer to me. It's becoming more human. It's no longer like a deer and a dog. Those are distant from me. And yet, even though it's kind of getting closer in terms of me being able to really communicate with it in a more coherent way, it's still, now it's stone. It's cold. It's not as alive as the other. Now, the other dream frightened me. Dreams don't want to frighten you. If you have a nightmare, that's a breakdown of the dream. The dream wants to communicate. Now, if you get frightened, it means time to wake up with a hard pinch. Night terrors and horrible, things being gutted and eviscerated and bombs going off and stuff like that. The subconscious is then trying to get a hold of you. In this thing says, you have forgotten me, okay? And then I said, no, I haven't forgotten you. No, this is a nonsense image. I'm in a museum, a bust is talking to me. You can see that the head is trying to emerge out of a cube. That's that boundedness that I felt. The boundedness that I felt, and the head is sculpted on top. And it's saying, you have forgotten me. And I'm saying, no, I haven't forgotten you. Well, in fact, I had. Or I wouldn't be having these dreams. But the fact that the stone head can say, you have forgotten me, indicates the self, the deeper self, the call from the deeper self is actually communicating with me. So here, in this dream, I think that these are correct in sequence. And the whole span of the dreams is perhaps 6 months, 6 to 8 months, from the very beginning dream to the last one I'm going to show you. This one probably happened some weeks later. And in this one, a lady that I knew, she dressed in black typically, and her name was Saraswati. It's a very, anyway, that's the name she chose for herself, spiritual name. But anyway, I'm sorry, it's embarrassing. Had jewels, she lost half of them. What could she do? She was flippant. And then these black thugs come for her about the lost jewels. So she's a New Ager. She would represent what they call my anima, the feminine aspect of myself, the receptive, the creative, the right brain aspect, the artistic. That's what she represents. Well, she's flippant. I'm given the names. She's flippant. She's dressed in black, very stylized, and it also harkens back to she's playing artist in a way, playing spiritual with her name, and yet in black, it's calling back the rage from the dog, the black dog. So it's coming forward. You have to recognize the color coding marches forward through your dreams. And the black thugs, being from Memphis and whatnot, I hope some people are here watching are black and they can comment on this. But it's not that I'm scared of black people. It's just that I don't have much good familiarity. I've had some conversations with black guys and whatnot. But anyway, so blacks appear to a white person as the other. They appear as the other. The good thing is they're shadow, what you call, like they would be shadows of my egoic self. And they appear as threatening. So just like the black dog is raging, these guys are angry. It's like it's the black people in Memphis when Martin Luther King was shot. They were tearing up the city. So you've got, they appear now. In a way, they're really doing good work because they're going to set her straight. Her being my artistic self that is stylized and really kind of useless, and half of the jewels are gone, and she doesn't care. And that's me in my life, just wasting stuff and not noticing that I was squandering my attentions, squandering my ability to participate, squandering my creativity, let's say, in a way. Now, it's not necessarily, do you understand, it's not necessarily true, to the outside world that I was squandering my creativity or anything like that. This is an internal process and an internal dialogue and very intimate. So the black guys are after Saraswati, very, very threatening, very huge, very, muscular guys. Now here I set out on a boat across the water for a new land. Here I am in a profile, and there's the water, and I'm heading towards a distant shore. I saw an Indonesian man walking along a path through golden fields, think rice paddy type thing. And I thought, is that a weapon he carries? So I'm trying to say, is this Asian guy, now we're talking Asians, is he threatening? Is he, is he protecting something? And then, so then I see the inside of his dwelling, and I'm going, is this a kitchen? Okay, when a kitchen appears in your dreams, that's alchemical. That means it's a place where you're doing the work. If you have a bathroom in a dream, a bathroom is a cleansing process. You're eliminating unwanted stuff, or you're cleaning up, or you're washing, or something like that. It's hygienic. It's mental inner hygiene. And if it's a fancy bathroom, or a very rustic bathroom, or you're taking a squat in the woods, or it's a bucket, whatever, all that, you have to write those things down, and that's all going to be impactful on what the dreamer is trying to tell you. In this, I'm seeing this simple peasant, let's say, Asian guy, rice paddies. So we're in a fairly placid state here, right? I'm in a peaceful state of mind. I'm actually doing the proverbial work, and so the dreamer is coming back at me with some imagery that's kind of aesthetically pleasant for me. Now let's see now. So the dreams, things morph one into the other as you begin to understand, as the dream itself makes sense to you. The language of the dreamer gets that material to you, and it makes sense to you. Often that symbol will morph. It'll change into something even in the same dream. And in this case, that simple kitchen, I get a detail on it, and now I see a brick wall filled with hot coals, and there are two what I thought looked like loaves of bread. So, and I talked to you about the dream I just had recently about two poles, about being projects or work. Well, these two loaves of bread would represent some kind of duality, things cooking. I don't know what they are. You have to stay with the dream over time to imagine what those things are. But the dream is obviously, I would say, happy with me because it's got this kind of sane material coming at me. I'm managing it pretty well. It's not like that first one with the angry dog just foaming at the mouth trying to rip my throat out. So but I do see, the rage comes forward. I have not dealt with the rage issue, the anger, the frustration issue. Now it appears not as two angry black guys. Now it appears in its what it really is, which is a bull, a huge muscular bull, angry bull. And I'm thinking, whoa. I got to be careful. I want to get away from this guy. And the only thing that was separating the bull from me, it had no interest in me at this point. The only thing that's separating the bull from me is this flimsy fence. And so I just decide to ease out slowly. I chose this dream sequence because it was a fairly clear, I think it shows a clear principle of the way that dreams move forward and what you can expect when you start communicating with your dreams, of how forms morph. Now you see what's going on here. Now I've got, that bull turns into I think this might even be the next night, if not later the same night. And the bull morphs into this very threatening half-human bull. You think about the Minotaur in mythology, and the bull wanted to gore me. I realized he could go through the fence with no trouble. He could go through the fence. So the bull, you think in the dream you're safe, man. This is an inanimate. This is a creature in the natural world. It's not. It's all consciousness. And it's all trying to make peace with you personally. And in this case, the bull is trying to come at me, and it's still on the attack, but you can see it's on two legs. It's a very, very cynical look on its face. He paced with me. I'm walking back and forth, and he's mocking me. I faked, I walked outside. I faked I faked him off and ran quickly. Then I only made it several hundred feet away. So I escaped from the bull. Then I think I end up in a tree, right? Now it's a cat, okay? The bull as animals has turned into like a cheetah. So it's now gone from being half human, embodying my rage and the sense of a bull and goring me with a lot of power. Now it's a cat. So the cat is more of a feminine type animal spirit. You know, a cat has more feminine characteristics, as we know, dogs are guys and cats are girls. You know, I mean, cats they're more reserved, they're more difficult to read, let's say, than a dog. So I've got like a lion or a cheetah or whatever it is, and I've run up this tree, and the cat's eyes are squinted. He seems to not be able to see me, though he tries. So this cat is not able to really read me. So I am up a tree, okay? I'm trying to hide from this threat, and the threat is rage. It's things I haven't dealt with. This is why you run from stuff in dreams, why you're running. You're not running from anything from the outside. You're running from some quality within yourself that you really don't want to face. Why? Because it's hard. It's not fun. And that's why a lot of people don't want to write their dreams down. They don't want to write them down. They don't want to remember their dreams. They don't want to, because you're going to find stuff out. That's, you know, it's just that way. I mean, you think this stuff is being manufactured out of nowhere? You know, so anyway, so this is this dream. This is the evolution. Let's see what happens next. So this dream is later. It was a month or two. I think it's a month or two later. But you can see here, there's the boy up a tree again. And it's a golden boy. It's a kid. And in this one, the kid, he doesn't see well. He doesn't hear well. The kid is kind of impaired that way. That's me. That's me trying to understand what's going on in my life. I really don't understand. I'm kind of clueless at the deeper level. So this kid is rocking back and forth in the tree. And the tree, again, it's rooted. Think about trees. It's not like those two poles I mentioned early on. It's a wild thing that roots down in the ground. And it helps to hold the ground together. So a tree is almost an extrusion out of the ground. But it can be building material. It can be something that turns into something. And in this case, it has given me refuge. I'm up the tree. You know, this kid is up the tree. And in this, he's kind of swaying. He's kind of swaying with the tree. Like I said, this one's later. And I say to this kid, me, my dream ego, that's me as I am at the time, 30 years ago. I'm saying, tell me your dreams. I will interpret them. I'll help interpret them. I try to understand this kid. It's almost like he's in a trance. That's us. I'm going to say it's just me, but no, it's all of us. We're like in a coma. The conditioning of this life and the way it works, we're in this comatose state, and we don't quite understand who we are, why we're here, why things happen, and so we look for somebody to tell us, and we go, oh, that doesn't sound good. No, that sounds good. You know, we kind of go like this. We really don't know. And the dream and the dream process, and this whole process gives you an opportunity to get to know what's really going on in the important sense. I don't know how that relates to the outside world. They meet one another, and when you have a well-developed dream interpretation thing, it can start to actually tell you, almost like an oracle, it can tell you things that are going on in the world. It can give you cues about what's actually happening in the world around you. So we're back to the beginning. That was the whole dream sequence. And I'm not going to rehash all that. I just want to say, generally speaking, there are structures, you know, like wood slats, boards, fences. There's a stone wall, a stone enclosure. It could be a building. In a dream, there's not any difference between, let's say, a stone enclosure around, let's say, a charcoal fire with bread on it, or a building. You know, now a building you can go into, and the stone or the brick oven type thing you can't really go into, but they're both structures made out of similar materials. Then you have animals in dreams. There's wild animals and domestic animals. It's, I think, very, very helpful and important to try to establish a thread of transmutation, a thread of development that goes through the dreams, where you're dreaming about, like I remember I had a dream, and it might have started this process even, of a red bug, a brilliant red bug. I'm just walking down a path, and a brilliant red bug attaches itself to my pant leg. And that's like all there was in the dream. That ends up being a fleshing out. You know, you have to like not to use the, you know, the lotus or flower, like a flower, it flowers outward and outward and outward. You have a little nugget of intense meaning. And the dream is saying, here's this intense, it's very, very tightly bound up, lots of information in that little hot red bug, lots of information about the feminine side of myself, the masculine side of myself, and where I'm going in my life, and my frustrations, my angers, my possibilities. And so the dream has to open that out and open that out and open that out. And it does it in subsequent dreams. And you can help the dreamer give you information back if you will look at what those things are and try to tie them together coherently. And you can usually do that if you use good descriptive words when you write your dreams down. The descriptive words, and you compare those descriptives. Like you might describe, let's say an old barn is rough and splintered. And then you might see a road as being rough and rocky. And you say, well, I don't know, a road and a barn, they're different, but you know, maybe the dreamer is talking to me through that shared language of words. So you try to do that. Write down your dreams. I would like to go on and on and on. I'm going to try to set up a format to where you can actually, you know, get me a dream. You could probably stick it in an email, but you know, it's hard to get that stuff in there. I mean, an email in the notes below or something like that. But I would like to be able to get it to where I could like give you some ideas about how dreams evolve, at least from my viewpoint. I've got a lot of experience at it. You know, it's my way of dealing with it. So anyway, thank you very much. Thanks for watching. I hope this is helpful.